on this episode of Sandbaggers Anonymous.
Just to be clear, sandbaggers aren't always bad people.
But eventually, they're going to hit a good shot. Sandbaggers Anonymous,
A proper golf podcast with proper golf stories.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Sandbaggers Anonymous. I am one of your hosts, Megan.
I'm Saige.
Glad you guys are joining us today. So if you listen into our first episode, you know a little bit of what we're talking about here. This is kind of our safe space to share golf stories, a place to vent about maybe an instance where you've ever been sandbagged. So that'll come up today a few times. So this episode, we have a focus on a couple different things. We want to do something fun to get started based on a conversation we had last night. And then I have a story where Saige is going to talk a little bit about her amazing golf skills and how many shots she has to give, and a couple other topics along the way. So let's get started.
I feel like I know a decent amount about golf, but
Yes.
we don't know enough.
We all know birdie, eagle, sandbagger.
Maybe a shank.
Yeah.
I know what a shank is.
Yes. That's like a mid-level golf term. But there's some weird ones out there. And we were laughing about worm burner, which is one I heard playing competitive gab match. And this woman kept hitting worm burners and she was telling me about it. And I was just like, yeah. I had no idea what these are.
Some people that know what worm burners are often.
Yeah. So we got started talking about golf terms. So I am going to test our very pro golfer here, Saige, on a couple golf terms. She has not looked these up ahead of time. So we're just going to have some fun today seeing if she knows any of these.
Pro golfer is also a term that should not be used in my vocab.
All right. So let's start off. Have you ever heard of a barkie?
A barkie sounds like you hit a tree or something.
It's true. I got that right. I was going to say, I was like, I picked this one because this happened to you in your match the other day. One of the opponents you played hit a tree.
Yes.
I don't know if she still made the par, but it's hitting a tree and still making a par, a barkie.
Oh, I'm making a par.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm going to use that.
now we know.
I do that
barkie.
often.
Now we know.
I don't par it often. I hit trees often.
All right. How about the dance floor?
Oh, okay. That's when you are on the green,
Mhm.
probably in like 2 shots or something, and you're dancing. You're ready to putt.
Close. It's the place that you want your golf ball to do a tango with the pin.
Oh!
So, for example, if your ball's on the very edge of the green, you're on the dance floor, but you can't hear the band. So that's a lot. That's a lot of detail.
Oh. You're dancing.
So it's not just the green; it's a place where you want it to be in relation
Right.
to the pin, an ideal place.
Well, okay, that makes sense now.
All right, you've been too close on these. I mean, this one's pretty common, a fried egg, but I didn't know what this was for a little. So a golf ball buried in the bunker.
We don't like them, but I love a fried egg.
Yes, but not on the golf course. How about a platypus?
A platypus. Like maybe you're buried in mud.
No, hitting the ball out of bounds and still making a par.
That sounds weird. Like who came up with that?
It's stretching a little bit.
What is a chicken stick? Because I did see
Chicken
that pop somewhere, but I
scroll.
don't know.
Chicken stick is on this list. Okay, so it's the one club in your bag that you can always rely on. So your like go-to club.
I saw a John Daly post about that the other day.
But
But he didn't call it chicken stick. What's my chicken stick?
yeah, what's your chicken stick?
I'd say an 8-iron.
Oh, classic. All right,
I
what do you?
hit that like 130, but you can use it for like a punch shot or a hit and
Mm-hmm.
roll. I just feel really good hitting it all the time.
Okay, I love that. My chicken stick, this is probably a little non-traditional, but it's my 7-wood. So I added it to my bag last season, but I can hit it off the deck. So I still, if I'm driving, I can get a good amount of distance off it. I've actually hit it out of bunkers. I've learned to hit it. I actually saw a woman do this and I was like, I need to try it. I learned how to kind of tilt it and hit it out of bunkers. It doesn't always work, but it can. And then I've done the classic bump and run and chipped with it. Now, I obviously couldn't putt with it, but I hit that club good every time. And sometimes I have no business of hitting the distance, but I'll choke down on it or hit like a hockey shot with it for less distance. But I know it's going to get there. I know it's going to be straight.
So you have to teach me.
All right, I'll teach
ways.
me ways. All right, so I would say that's my chicken stick. All right, I'll give you one last one, and then we'll move on to serious topics. How about chili dip?
Okay, well, I know chili dipper from Tin Cup.
Okay.
And I feel like that's like a shank or a bad shot. Just a bad shot.
Yeah, when you chunk a chip.
Oh,
which-
it's just a chunk. Oh,
I
I thought
chili dip.
I thought a chili dipper would be more like a little shank.
It goes off to the side. No.
It's a chunk.
I chili dip a lot, apparently. All right, there's a whole list of these. There's some
Great
weird
present for
ones.
you.
Yes. All right, well, there's some ones on here, but you did pretty well. You're more versed than you might think you might be. So with all those different types of shots you can hit, we want to talk a little bit about some good gameplay. So I have some questions for Saige. We were talking a little bit about a story. Obviously, we complain a lot about sandbagging, but Saige, I wanted to share a little bit of the story when you were playing in a competitive match. Saige is a good golfer.
I'm okay. I've gotten better.
She's good compared to me, so she's better than me. And so you got matched up against a woman last year who had a significantly higher handicap. So tell us a little bit about how that match all went down.
Just to be clear, sandbaggers aren't always bad people.
No. Disclaimer.
Right. She could be sandbagger sometimes.
Yeah.
But I happened to finish the season a really low score.
Yeah.
In September. Wait, was it September? Early on in the season.
Because you had that great, was it great round
I
of
shot 2
Applebrook?
under par one time. And
I'm not a good golfer. Shoots 2 under par.
the best part about it was my friend and I, we're going to have Jen on the show, so I'll name drop Jen Heller. So we were both on conference calls with like our earbuds in and like scarfing down lunch. And we took a shot of popped a bottle of rosé and we're off. And I bogeyed the first hole and I'm like, this is stupid. I should be bogeying the first hole. And then I eagled a par 5 on second, and it was like par, 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 birdie, birdie, par, birdie. And I was like, don't tell me my score until I'm done the round.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm playing, but I think it's not even drunk or sober. It's whether you're having fun. And
You're like feeling it.
Like,
You're feeling the round. Yes.
So I ended up shooting 2 under par, and me and everybody hated us though because we won net and gross.
Tournament.
Like closest to the pin. I think we won like everything, and everyone just wanted us to leave. And
yes,
we probably did actually right after that. So, but because of that score, my handicap dropped very low.
Mm-hmm.
And in this tournament, lowest handicap is paired with the highest handicap. So I was paired with the sweetest woman ever for my first round, but I was giving her 31 strokes, and
that's a lot.
I feel like
that feels like a lot.
That's just a struggle. Yeah. That's almost 2 rounds of golf.
Yeah.
In 1 round. Like,
yes.
I understand that, we can be paired up with the best. Like
yes.
Scotty, Tiger, Rory, any of them, Morikawa. And we can play a match based on strokes, but they'd be giving us like 47 strokes. But it's hard because when I was even playing, I'm like, oh, I lost the hole, or I tied the hole, so I get like a par. She's like, oh, I got 2 strokes, and I'm like,
that's like, and then the mental piece of that, like knowing that you're going in, and it adds up to that. Like even if you play well, you know that there's someone with 31 strokes is there for a reason, because there are people who don't sandbag and have scores, and that's totally fine. But eventually, they're gonna hit a good shot. They're gonna par. They could birdie. They are gonna have a couple holes when you blow up. But especially if you're doing match play, it doesn't really matter their end score. It's just if they win that hole and leverage their scores. So it's like that mental piece of it. And there's also like when you're playing match play, 31 strokes can be
And she's like, I'm late for my bridge match. I'm like, okay.
She didn't even care. She didn't even care about the match.
I'm giving you so many strokes. I'm like, I'm just happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up winning on 18, and it was just purely, she had 1 bad hole, and it was 18, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would have, you would have
pushed to the next, you would have pushed an extra hole. Yeah.
And I will say that women that have been playing for a while, we have wild swings. Like, she played field hockey, I played ice hockey, so we're just crazy. Like, we want to hit the ball hard and far. Like,
get it there.
What we do.
That's why we play golf. That's amazing drives.
Right, and that's why we slice and hook and do all the things too. But they're just down the fairway.
Boop, boop.
And when they're sitting 2, you're sitting 1, but then they chip it within 10 feet all the time.
Yes.
I want these skills.
Yes.
In 30 years... 40 years, we'll get there.
We'll come back and we'll be like, we finally figured out the remaining swings in golf.
I said 30 years, but my mom's almost 60 and she swings out of her shoes. So maybe we have to wait till we're like in our 70s or 80s.
All right, add some years to that. We're not that old. But I think that brings up a good point. You've got different varying handicaps, playing in matches, outplaying for fun. I mean, even if we play for $5 or have different games, it does come into play. 31's a lot. Now, again, you guys went to 18 holes and were competitive the whole time. So the handicap system works. So it does work. But there's other components that make your handicap and then being, 31 shots really tricky to come from. But I think we've learned, and when we talked with a lot of women about sandbagging experiences, even men about sandbagging experiences, especially women who are new playing golf, they just don't understand those things that when we're out, we joked on our last episode about using foot wedges. Actually, that helps your handicap rather than hurts it. But there's a lot of things that, like when I first started, I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to pick up and give myself a 10 on that. Or I wasn't entering my scores in the Gin app hole by hole. Like, I think there's a lot of things that you don't realize that add to your handicap versus maybe making it a little bit more accurate of what you have the potential to play on a good day.
Correct.
So that's why we're so passionate about the cause for sandbagging.
I mean, if you're shooting like the 120s,
Yeah.
why would I make my life harder
Yes.
than it needs to be? Like,
Use the foot wedge. It's already, if you've already blown up on a hole, but for example, say I've blown up on a hole, I end up under a tree, I'm using a foot wedge because I don't want to break my back or break my club.
How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm also bad at math and accidentally overcount my shots
I know.
because the numbers are so high.
Or we have really good abilities, we do, to forget our previous shots or forget the previous holes. So
Yeah.
sometimes I just miss.
Yeah.
And we have a friend that's she's very good at all the rules.
so
She's like,
good.
we're good at remembering everybody's shots.
Entire round.
Entire round.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you actually got the 5.
Yeah. This is why I play with you because I can't count on my fingers and remember from one hole to the next.
Babysit us.
Yes.
We have friends that do this for us.
Yes, it builds the perfect foursome. Yes. Okay, so then let's talk a little bit about just general competitive events, gross versus net tournaments, and how you approach when you're going into them. Of course, sometimes when we play tournaments, we just want to go in and, of course, have a good time. But, like, who doesn't want to win?
We want to win pro shot money so we can get all the free
Yes.
clothes.
But, like, how do you think, okay, everyone's accurately handicapped, everyone's got the right amount of shots. Like, is it more of bragging rights if you win gross versus net?
Winning gross is such an accomplishment, but it's kind of like second place. You're like, oh,
Yes, yeah.
you just lost. And I'm happy, it's mostly mixed events that this happens.
Yes.
So usually the boyfriends and husbands are relatively good. I played with a golf pro last time. But we shot so well in this one tournament. So I shot a 72. He shot a 73. He did not putt well.
Can we just take a
Sort of.
pause and remember when Saige said earlier in this episode that she wasn't a good golfer and she's just dropping these scores? I just had to call it out.
Just highlighting
I just had to call it out.
We'll look through my stats later and see how crazy some of my holes get. I got a couple of 7s, but we were like, oh my God, we're going to win net and gross. And it was such an accomplishment because we played so well.
Yeah.
But we ended up only winning gross, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we lost net by 4 strokes.
Yeah.
Which is insane because
Your scores
people
were
that
so
have
low that
higher
day.
handicap shouldn't be naturally birdieing and parring the majority of the holes on the 9.
Yeah.
So
I
there needs
would
to be
like-
handicap police. I never used to get bothered by this stuff, and now that I'm playing in these things, I'm like,
How are they scoring that? I don't know. And listen, like I've been part of it where there was a tournament I played it on Sunday and it was like better ball. And I just, again, this is like a accidental sandbagging moment where we got it up in 2, it was a par 4 and I was chipping downhill and everything on this green runs down the hill. So I knew I just had to like barely touch on the green and it was already going to go. I took the backswing of my life. I don't know what I was doing. I took a backswing with my chip that was so outrageous and it drops and hits the pin dead and drops, circles the pin and just stays on the outside.
So we're
tangoing on the dance floor. So it ended up being great. I had no business of it. If the pin wasn't there, it would have been so often we would have hit. But every once in a while, that's gonna happen when you hit a shot like that. Where I typically don't hit shots like that perfectly, and we ended up par that hole. So again, I just say those things do happen, but consistently in matches is where it gets a little suspicious.
Correct. If you're playing competition, I played in a couple more, intense competition things. I hit my first proper one that I had no caddy, no emotional support with me. I hit 12 provisionals that day. And I will blame the 4 spotters that were like, I don't know where your ball went. I'm like, you can't see.
Yeah,
you're so old. But you usually play a little bit worse in competition just because you're nervous.
Yeah.
You're not putting. And all of a sudden, these women are playing so well during competition. I've played, we both played in competition at higher levels of our sport. I'm like,
doing this. So many questions.
So and golf's such a mental game. I'm like,
It
is so fast. You don't have time to think.
Yeah. We may never know.
Thanks for the vent session.
It's allowed. Deep breath as we move on to our
Megan's
next
my
topic. We call each other pretty much after every competitive round we play and talk about our scores. And we're like, okay, this happened. I feel really great about this. This was really
It started
questionable.
at 1.
I didn't like how the lady sneezed on hole 8. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe sometimes. But anyway, okay, so another thing that comes up a lot with sandbagging competitive golf tournaments
Right.
like this is this concept of giving putts. This is very controversial, I feel like, especially for women's golf.
It's a thing.
When we play with competitively with in mixed tournaments, I feel like guys are giving putts left and right, but that's not always the case. I
Right.
feel like in some of the women's competitive golf.
I think the men don't, and this isn't a knock. This isn't.
No.
I don't think men care as much about the mixed tournaments, and they know that the other players go just take it, pick it up, kind of thing. And I always leave it up to my partner to give putts. Because one, I can't count. Like I don't remember what everybody's
Where they're at.
And I feel bad asking people constantly before they're what do you want?
Yeah.
Because if they're lying something, crazy. Like I don't like asking. But it is weird because I feel like if you're just playing like our Sunday ladies golf group.
Yes. The best group.
The best group, and we are very generous.
Yes.
And if you make a good putter, good shot, like you deserve it, fine, whatever. And it's just making everybody happy and better and whatever.
Yeah.
But in match play, it's so hard because I've won on a hole in match play where somebody's missed a foot, half a foot, like yanked it.
Yep.
Yanked it.
Again,
Oh my
no
God,
one's no one at all levels gonna perfect putt every
Correct.
time.
So it is hard. I think it's more of a mutual respect of what's fair. Honestly. Don't be
Yes, that's just, number one rule.
But women always get knocked about giving putts.
They are. And sometimes I feel bad too. Because again, I play and again, I feel like I'm counting my shots. I'm thinking about what I did wrong 10 holes ago. And there's so much in my head. And then sometimes again, I'm worried so much about my own game that I'm not worried. And realizing she's 2 inches from the cup and she's waiting for me. She's waiting for me. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. So again, sometimes it's accidental.
Are you really? And you don't want to wait there and be like, are you really not going to give me this putt? Have you lost a hole or tied a hole giving a putt?
Yeah, so I gave a putt in one of my GAT matches. And again, like this GAT match, the woman I played with was a better handicap than me and likely was going to beat me anyway. She was playing really well. I was playing okay that day. But there was one hole, it wasn't like a game-changing match, but there was one hole where I just wasn't paying attention. Again,
what's new?
This is part of being a competitive golfer, is paying attention to the whole field. Our friend who keeps track of everything would be so disappointed in me, but I wasn't paying attention and I was frustrated with how I played. I think I was maybe only like a 6 on a par 4, but she had struggled. I wasn't taking a shot and I gave her the putt and it was probably more than what people like would give for a putt, but then I realized I could have at least tied her on that hole. It was frustrating because I wasn't paying attention and it wasn't like it was 2 inches away from the hole. She probably should have putted out and it would have been maybe pushing to the next hole. So it's just one of those things. It was more frustrating because I wasn't paying attention.
I know. But it's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Especially as people that don't play. Now we're starting to.
Yes.
Like now I know how to put the dots on the scorecard.
Yes. All the things.
Thank you to the app.
Is
it Gin or Gin?
I'm probably saying it wrong.
I don't know. We gotta look it up.
A future episode.
Gin or Gin?
Is it Gin or Gin?
I like gin because it's like alcohol.
Of course, that ties in perfectly with our vibe. Okay, so today on our episode, we learned a couple new golf terms, or maybe you didn't learn, but you had to laugh at us trying to figure out what they are. We talked a little bit about, is 31 strokes too many? Probably, but maybe not, depending on the situation. Yeah. But if you find yourself in that situation where you are giving 31 shots in your competitive match play, don't be an about giving putts.
Don't be an asshole.
And
just have fun.
Yeah, just have fun.
That sounds super cheesy, but just have fun. That's really it.
That's really all we're golfing for.
Until next time.
Now that we've ended our episode on rainbows and butterflies, tune in for our next episode. We're going to be covering a couple of different topics around golf stories, maybe some more trivia as we go. But thanks for tuning in today. See you, everyone.